The people are both the masters of both the Congress and the courts. Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who would pervert it. Where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. And where the government fears the people, you have liberty. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to The Real Story. My name is Daniel Hapney. I was going to go over some news with you tonight, maybe try to enlighten you on some things that you don't see on your major media. Why would I do that? I'm trying to wake you up, at least get you to ask questions. That when things don't seem right, maybe you'll think more. Maybe you'll ask questions and ask questions to people around you. Maybe you'll try to make the world a little better place when you leave it. You know, when you're all done, maybe it'd be better for your kids than it was for you. That's what I was thinking. So, in my informative nature of myself, I thought I'd try to inform you or at least ask you questions. Are you familiar with what's happening this week with a guy by the name of Madoff? From what I understand, he made off with a lot of money. This is a lot like Kashkari, the guy who took your cash and carried it. But let's go over Madoff anyway. Wow, where have we heard that name before? This is recent news. We're dating the show. Here we are in December of '08, and we're finding out now that, boy, this 70-year-old gentleman, he was able to make off with, they're figuring now, $50 billion, swindling. And they think maybe the real number might approach $100 billion. So my first question to you viewers, that's right, you worldwide viewers and you Sharonite viewers, if I was to spot a cockroach, or you spotted a cockroach, I got a question for you. Is that the only one? Do they usually come in ones? Last time you heard about cockroaches, kind of like ants, right? When you find an ant, do you think that's the only ant? How about if it was a mouse, a rodent, some type of vermin? Hey, look at the little mouse or the rat over there. Is that the only one? So with Madoff, I got to ask you, gee, Wall Street, let's see, there's been Enron, there's been WorldCom, and for you local viewers, there's Polaroid. Remember, what's Polaroid, stock worth today, let alone if you had a bond? So my question to you is, with Madoff, do you think he's the only one? Have they been lying to you? And not just that, have they been stealing from you? And so here's my Madoff questions. Who's the guy who founded and ran NASDAQ? That's question number one. Could his name be Madoff? So here's the guy who started one of the stock exchanges, and we find out later in life, he's a crook. Hey, turned in by his sons. Well, we're supposed to feel good about them. Maybe this way they get immunity because they turned in Papa. But the interesting thing is, it turns out that some of their dealings or whatever, they had fraudulent, clauses in their contracts. When I say fraudulent clauses, that if there was fraud permitted, or not permitted, how about the word, when they've done fraud, that they could go see like Lloyd's of London and say, you know what, we don't lose our money, we want our money back, or we want to be covered for it. Why I bring this all up is, here we're looking at Wall Street once again, and Wall Street has stolen from the people yet again. And we're made to believe that the government cares about you, and that's why they're watching Wall Street for you, so you can sleep good at night, not thinking that, hey, you invested in Enron and they just gave it to you, or took it from you, for that matter. But now, recently, you've just been asked to give money out of your own pocket in the form of taxes to bankers. Wasn't it bankers who helped Madoff make off with the money? Did he do it alone? Didn't he have to do it through banks? Didn't he have to do it with brokers? Isn't that whole scam thing what he was about? So, you out there, think about what's going on. How this economic collapse has been done by design, that they allowed this to go on, even though they were informed many times over many years that, hey, you should keep an eye on this guy. Oh, no, they couldn't do that. Who are they going to go after? They're going to go after little people. Martha Stewart, $89,000 or something. Shame on you, Martha. Go serve a year. But Madoff makes off with $50 billion that they know of, $100 billion they're figuring, okay? And what do we get? He's going to get a life sentence. When you're 71 years old, what's a life sentence to you? So I should mellow this one out for you, and I want you to think, if you see a cockroach, or in this case a Wall Street broker or investment banker, similar to cockroaches, if you see one, do you think that's the only one? So you found a crook on Wall Street. Do you think he's the only one? Are you waking up yet to the fact that you've been stolen from and lied to? They made you believe that a gambling casino was an investment. This is a safe, secure place to put your money because we have the SEC, watching over us. And, oh, by the way, that's right, all those accountants and well, I'm not going to get on actuaries, but those accountants and, they have organizations where they watch themselves. Isn't that nice? So the bank robber says, I'm going to watch myself, Think about what I'm saying and ask yourself, how many times do you have to find crooks in Wall Street before you start figuring, Wall Street's crooked? That, this SEC thing, maybe that's a revolving door for employees from Goldman Sachs. Maybe Citibank. Remember Rubin? Name ring any bells? Yeah, he's like Treasury Secretary, then he's working for Citibank. Citibank goes, bankrupt, and Dubai has to bail him out. Then Citibank goes bankrupt again and you have to bail him out. So, I try to get you to realize that, gee, this revolving door where we move people from the government to the bank, from the bank to the government, and every time they get a raise or they get a higher position where they can help steal and cheat even more. Maybe I'm just making all this up. Maybe it's not real, Maybe it's like the plane that didn't exist that hit the Pentagon or whatever, that there was no, rubble and stuff for. So why would they lie to you? Boy. Constantly, every night. To me, it's funny because I did a show called, Economic Collapse by Design. And I also did some shows on money and on the Federal Reserve, that private banking cartel that's stealing the wealth from this nation. And, well, I got a little quote for you. Here's a little quote, and I think this is the root, the cause of the problem. Okay, is when you have a private banking cartel create your currency, you're asking, it's like a suicide wish. So what I have for you, this goes back about 200 years. We had a president by the name of Thomas Jefferson. I thought a very learned man, probably well-versed man, but he had made a statement, and I want to read it to you, and we'll show it to you. And this is what he said, and I try to remind people of this. He said, "I believe the banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies." Do you get that? If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation, you know what that is, then by deflation, you've heard of that, haven't you? The banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all their property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. So there we have a president who made the statement that if we ever allowed a private bank to create our currency, that it would mean economic suicide for our nation. Yet where are we today, 200 years later? We have a private banking cartel, not part of our government, privately owned by people you don't even know, creating our currency from nothing. And slowly over time, once again through inflation and also deflation, they start getting control of corporations. Okay, they start controlling your media. They start controlling every little part of your life. And what do? They tell you, well, the solution to everything is bigger government. We need more regulation. You watch, out of this mess with Madoff, where he made off with the money, you watch, they're going to come back to you and they're going to say, well, if we had more regulation, everything would be okay. Yes, if every person had a cop on their shoulder, if every person had an SEC person under their chair, start thinking about how much government you want. And I think the people actually would have done better if they didn't have the SEC. I know you say, well, we need them because they protect the people. Well, evidently, they didn't protect the Enron people, did they? They didn't protect anybody that I know of yet. If you've lost money in the markets, have they protected you? But more importantly is think about it. If we didn't have the SEC, then what would happen? People would have to be a lot more diligent. People would have to be a lot more smarter and a lot more aware and would be more wary. And then we'd get back into that, buyer beware. That's the thought, once again, that the solution to every problem isn't bigger bureaucracy. What we have nowadays is we have the beginnings of fascism and socialism coming to the United States, where you're relying on the government for everything you do. Everybody's got to be licensed in whatever they do, okay? Everybody's got to be watched. Everybody's got to jump through hoops, fill out papers, once again, have licenses, registrations, all these things. And to what benefit? Who does it benefit? It benefits someone if they want all sorts of control. Now we have a new president-elect coming. His name is Obama, right? Obama. That's right. Obama's going to be your man. He had a logo. That's right. Leaders with logos. Things I tell people to watch out for.